I think one of the things we talked about a little bit earlier before you got here was the principled use of AI. So in my mind, AI is something that can be helpful to society if it's used appropriately and with what I would call some boundaries placed on it. And let me just go, there were a lot of pieces to your question. Let me just sort of jump through as many as I can. So let's talk about content development, right? As you said, there's some concern about the fact that there'll be less need for creators of content. And I think what we're going to see is the explosion of content. And with the explosion of content, that means those people that are currently in the content writing area are going to have to begin moving to become curators of content, right? Because when you have so much content out there, you're going to have to spend a lot more time trying to figure out where it's appropriately used, what the audiences are, how it's targeted. And so in my view, there's a natural transition path for those content developers to actually move to content curation. And then with content curation becomes the need for those content developers to make sure that the content that's being developed by AI is appropriate, is we account for the biases that occur with that content, that we make sure that it's appropriately used by the end user of that content. So I think that's the first thing in terms of content development. I think that's also related to journalism. Again, because you're content developers, and now there'll be explosion of content. There'll have to be a way of making sure journalists more appropriately align the content and understand the source. The second piece, and this is what I really think is important to understand, is that particularly with generative AI, that those programs like OpenAI, they're based upon a data model. It's called a LLM, large language model. And that large language model doesn't have to be the whole internet, right? It can be something that's privately developed that allows a company or an organization or a journalism outlet to say, I want to use a large language model, OpenAI, but I only want it to target this type of data, and I want to train it on that type of data. And there you have much more control than of the output of the data, the output of the AI. And in particular, you can know where the source is, right? And I think particularly for journalism, the issue for me, for journalism, is not that AI is going to overtake journalism. I actually don't think that's true. I think what's going to happen is that in that curation mode, you're going to have to be very clear about what the source is, what the authenticity of the source is, where did it come from, and if it's coming from a general web large language model, you've got a lot of challenges. But if you can now begin building your own language models and use them as a source, an authorized, approved source of information, validated source of information, I think it begins to change the way we think a little bit about journalism. So thank you for your question. I hope I got some of the pieces.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
And Bonnie, if I may add to that, okay, it's also an issue in education, particularly the use of, for example, ChatGPT in research and in submitting coursework. But I think we have to prepare our students, which in a few years they'll be joining the workforce. And the workforce is already using AI, so we have to train them on how to use it properly. As Rick said, I like this principled innovation. We have to introduce innovation, but we have to also train them how to use it appropriately, using principles, using guides, to make the most out of it. Another area that we're also looking is that this artificial intelligence is just part of the big digital transformation thing that's happening. I agree, this may take away some of the existing jobs that are now sort of a threat, actually. But we also believe that this would also open new types of jobs. So as has been explained by the World Economic Forum, there will be thousands of jobs that would be deemed obsolete by this that digital transformation activities. But this would also create a lot of opportunities for new kinds of jobs, no? And we have to make sure that we prepare our graduates, no? Our students, to take on these new jobs, no, of the future. So that's our stand as far as the university is concerned.